From the 22 News Plus studio, this is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of InFocus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. We're here in the 22 News Plus studios talking about higher education. My guest today joining me across the desk is Dr. George Timmons. He is the president of Holyoke Community College. Dr. Timmons, thank you so very much for joining me today. I appreciate you giving me some of your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for the invitation. Happy to talk about HCC.
So you have not been in your role that long, have you?
I'm in my third year.
Yeah, so it's only been 3 years.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And how do you like it?
I love it. I love what I do. I think it's important that you find your purpose and your passion, and I found mine, and so I'm fortunate in that regard.
So let's go back in time, all right, to, you as a little boy growing up. Did you ever think you'd be the president of a college at this point in your life?
Never. Never. Absolutely not. In fact, it's interesting. I'm glad you asked that question. I'm actually originally from Hartford, Connecticut, believe it or not. Have ties to Western Mass. My mom lived in Springfield for over 30 years. So definitely familiar with the area. But I was really an average person, average student. I wasn't particularly a really good student, to be honest with you. In fact, in terms of grades, high school, I struggled a little bit and trying to find my way, and and had an opportunity to go to college, and was fortunate enough to go to an HBCU and really come out of my shell a little bit. But even in the midst of all of that, I had a learning disability that I didn't even know I had until I was in my 30s, and so it was hard for me to focus and all of these things. And so I really didn't do well in high school, and in college I did enough to get by. So, we talk about people who talk about summa cum laude and cum laude. I say I was a thank you laude, like let me just get through complete. But, people supporting you and people believing in you and finding out your purpose and your passion, right? So I was a finance major. I did that because, again, and as coming up in the 80s and Wall Street, if you remember those, everybody wanted to be on Wall Street, right? And I was pretty good in math to some extent. I majored in finance. And while it was okay, I wasn't passionate about it, did it enough to graduate, got into the field, and realized I didn't want to do that anymore. Right. And so come full circle, go to career counseling and really have an honest conversation about what is it that you like and what are you good at. And it comes to find out I was very active on the college campus, really involved in student government, student politics, and things of that nature, became student government president. And she said, have you ever thought about working on a college campus? And I was like, I don't really want to be a faculty member.
The eternal college kid.
Yeah, I didn't want to do that, right? And she was like, but George, you do know that there's so much more. College presidents, vice president, all these administrative roles, and just like a light bulb went off in my head. And eventually I went back to grad school to get my master's, eventually got my Ph.D., and then began a career in higher ed. And here I am 30 years later, and I love it.
The one takeaway I get from that is the key element of that one person who opened your eyes.
Exactly.
How, now on the HCC campus, how involved are you with, I don't even know if the term is guidance counselor anymore, or career counselor, whatever that person is who sits with the students and opens their eyes to a life beyond campus?
Yeah, so we do that very intentionally in terms of trying to help students find their career path and find their passion and purpose in life. And so as soon as they come on campus, we expose them to so many different things, whether it's the admissions counselor, then they talk to their advisor and counselor in terms of what they want to be and what are the skills and strength that they bring to the table to try to help them find pathways in which they can lead to career, taking an interest in things that they love to do toward a career. So we do that and with a lot of intentionality at HCC. And then me personally, I'm very transparent about my story and how I got there. So I want students to know that what they see in terms of maybe what they see as maybe the finished product, it wasn't always this way, right? That there's a journey, and I'm still on that journey. And so that we have to be honest with students so that they can see that we've made mistakes, that we've had to maybe pivot, so that it kind of crystallizes for them that they can also
because that's real life.
That's real life.
The pivoting, it's not always the shiny object that everybody sees. There's challenges, whether it's personally, with family, with friends, whatever, with careers. It's not always shiny. And I think students are starting to understand that, because I think your parents, probably the same as my parents, back then they didn't open up. Whereas you and I are very open with our children, saying,
Absolutely.
hey, you got your ups and your downs.
Yeah.
So it's great to hear that you're having those conversations on the campus so that students really understand what the future looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really important.
So let's talk a little bit of history about HCC. So you've been there a few years. It has been around for what, about 80 years,
Just
right?
about.
It is
Yeah.
just about
Yeah.
80
8
years. Tell
years.
me a little bit about the history of the school, HCC, and where it started, how it is
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. No. So we've been around just about 78 years. You know that we were once out of down at the high school in Holyoke. We
Mhm.
got our inception and started by the City Council of Holyoke years ago. In fact,
Okay.
ACC is the first community college in the state of Massachusetts.
Is it
It
really?
really is. It's the first community college in the
Know
state of
that.
Massachusetts. So we're the oldest community college. And then we evolved as a Holyoke Junior College, so Holyoke Community College, and there was a major fire. I want to say in the maybe late '60s, early '70s,
Okay.
somewhere around in there. And we moved to our new location, which at one point was, I believe, a farm, and it
Hmm.
was donated to ACC. And now we have a beautiful 120-acre campus that serves approximately 6,000 students a year. And so it's an amazing institution with an amazing scenery, with amazing people doing good work and impacting our community.
It is a great campus. I spent a few years there myself. We are up on our first commercial break. Stay with us, folks. We have plenty more to talk about. We'll be back in a moment.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Patrick Berry. Sitting across the desk from me today, President of Holyoke Community Colleges, Dr. George Timmons. Dr. Timmons, thank you for joining me today. We talked a little bit about the history of HCC just before we went to break. This is a silly question, but how dramatically different is the HCC of 1950, to the HCC of the mid 2020s?
Wow, great question. So, significantly have changed, right? If you think about the trajectory of the institution and who we serve today, believe it or not, this past fall, Holyoke Community College became a majority minority institution, where
Really?
50% of our institutions identify as students of color. I would imagine back in the 1950s, where probably the bulk of the students were full-time students between 18 to 22. Believe it or not, 40% of my students are 25 and older. 70% of my students are
Wow.
part-time. So clearly, we've had to respond to the changing demographics, and who we serve and how we serve them has become really critically important. So just from a demographic and needs perspective, ACC has changed tremendously over decades.
That is amazing, those stats that, would you say 40, how many percent are age 25 and older?
Yeah, about 40% are 25 and older. So what does that come with? They come with working and balancing family and
Right,
education and other responsibilities. And so having to reinvent ourselves and provide services that meet their realities, right?
right. So, I guess why are older people coming back to campus?
For a better life, for a better way.
Okay,
What do we know about education is that that is probably the most successful ways for economic mobility and
right.
success. And so I think when life has kind of tossed you around a little bit and you figure out that
Never
maybe
too late.
it's never too late to go back to school and figure out a pathway forward.
Does HCC have a specialty, nursing or tech, or is it the school that a student will choose because it has so many different opportunities?
Yeah, we're a comprehensive community college, so
Okay.
we really have all, most of the gamut there with a lot of transfer, workforce development, certificate programs. So we're considered a comprehensive community colleges. And so I always say, whatever your interests might be, there's probably an opportunity for you to have it at HCC. So, but I think when you think about what is ACC's secret sauce, and to your point, in terms of like what's kind of unique about what we do, I think it's our relentless commitment to student success
Okay.
and what those wraparound services and support services are. And I'm sure we can talk more about that.
Absolutely. So is HCC still a 2-year school, or has the two year model sort of gone away because most of your students are older? They have other things going on in their lives, so more of a constant classroom experience that might take 3, 4, 5 years.
Could exactly correct. So it's still a 2-year credential,
Okay.
but it may take our students, just like you said, 3 to 4 to maybe 5 years to complete. And that's the resilience of our students, right? To want to complete. And what do we do as an institution to make sure that we remove all those barriers so that they can focus on
Right.
their educational goals and completing their educational goals and going into the workforce, right? Because in a lot of ways, I say going to class is the easy part for community college students, right? And I say that tongue in cheek, but it's all of those other wraparound services and support services that can prevent a student, a flat tire, a dead
Right.
battery, food insecurity, housing insecurity, like all childcare. We offer free child watch on campus because these are the realities of things that can prevent someone from continuing their education.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the childcare because I wanted to ask you about that. That had to be one of the most important game changers in opening up the campus to young parents because historically I can't, but now
Correct.
you have on campus childcare.
Yes, we do. We have, well, it's Child Watch. We make sure, and what we do for that is students who are taking classes or participating in clubs, we have a Child Watch program in which we allow them to drop off their child free of charge,
Wow.
and we watch their children for them while they're on campus and participating in campus activities. We are just recently renovated that area where we expanded that space significantly to accommodate more students and more need, as well as want to just give a shout out to the Davis Foundation, who gave us a significant amount of money to expand the operations of that work. So now that we're including evening hours for our students. And so a lot of what we're looking to do now is looking at, again, our scalability and the impact that we have at HCC.
Meeting the students' needs wherever they might be in their life.
Right. So one of the things we talk about is the relentless commitment that I talked about is our student success and meeting them where they are, both academically, financially, and personally.
So I think one of the things for people who may not have had exposure to a community college, specifically HCC, I think one of the things that they may think about is it's not as the classrooms, the facilities aren't as technologically advanced as, say, a UMass or an AIC or something like that. But that's not the case, is it? I mean, you have state-of-the-art facilities.
Oh, absolutely. We can compete with some of the best of them. And I think about our MGM Culinary Arts. We have full-scale industrial grade facilities, kitchen and other services that are rival almost any professional
Wow.
culinary arts. So absolutely, I think that's sometimes the misnomer that people have about community colleges.
You're just
but the
going there for
reality
your
is that-
basics, your English, your
exactly.
basic math, right?
But I would suggest that the quality and the experiences are as good, if not better, to some that you can get elsewhere.
I have to imagine, sticking with culinary, you have partnerships within the community, the Pioneer Valley, on the culinary. Let's stay with
Sure.
culinary. That students really, they're learning real life. It's not classroom. They're learning what's happening at our local restaurants, hotels,
Right.
and so forth.
So we talk about that, and so the broader is experiential learning, right? How do we start to help fuse the actual experience and taking the theory and putting it into practice? And so we really are being intentional about that moving forward. But absolutely, culinary is a great example of the hands-on experience and real-world experience that you would get in an actual setting, so that when our students graduate, that they are prepared for the challenges and the opportunities that come with working in that workforce.
And if memory serves me correct, you have something very similar in the medical field too with nursing, right?
Yes. So we have a great opportunity where we have a pathway from a CNA to LPN, working with a great partner with Bay State that really helps our students go to a livable wage and sustainable wage
Right.
on a pathway that we know that will allow them to be able to take care of themselves. And that's really important.
And we all know that the medical field is desperate for staff.
Absolutely.
And that's where you sort of bridge that gap.
Absolutely.
You're
We try
helping.
to fill that need, right? Meet that needs. That's the meeting the workforce needs of the region. And how do we help prepare and help fill those gaps, those voids, make sure our students are prepared with both the professional skills and the competencies to
Right.
be successful, because it's important. Those professional skills is just as important as
Absolutely.
the competency skills. And so
Absolutely.
we really focus on that.
We are up on our second commercial break. Stay with us. We have plenty more with Dr. Timmons, and that's when we return.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back, everyone, to InFocus. Today, I have across the desk from me from Holyoke Community College, their president, Dr. George Timmons. Dr. Timmons, thank you again for joining me. I appreciate you setting aside some time in your busy schedule to come down here. You talked very early on in this conversation about the amount of students that HCC has. Do you have more kids on campus now than you did, over the course of the last 15, 20, 30 years? Or has it remained steady? Has it dropped? What is the student population looking like? And I will tell you, I want to segue into the free community college idea here in Massachusetts to see if it all relates together.
Yeah, sure. No. So enrollment over the decades has been an ebb and flow.
Okay.
I think that there at one point, you can fact check me on this, but I think in 2008, we served approximately maybe around 10,000 students
Wow.
at one
Okay.
point in time in its high point. Um, but obviously, with the demographic shift and the population of 18 to 22-year-olds shrinking, particularly in the Northeast, we saw some declines, and so we saw the enrollment dip for decades at a time, right?
Right.
And so recently, we're starting to see a shift and an uptick in our enrollment. So talk about free community college has
Hmm.
been really a really benefit for all community colleges across the state. And I would suggest to you that all community colleges have seen a significant increase in enrollment since this program has been
That's
implemented.
fantastic.
So it has really been a game changer. I know we're probably on our maybe fifth semester of enrollment growth. And so that is a really good thing. You talk about access and giving access to maybe people who didn't think education was an
Right.
opportunity for them is huge in terms of changing the mindset and think about the impact that it can have on the community.
Right.
But in practicality, it has presented some challenges as well because now we have to support more students, more strain on resources, particularly
Right.
support services and wraparound services. And also we have to continue to maintain our student outcomes and the quality that we do. And so, it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem nonetheless.
So I guess the biggest question is if community college is free, to your point, there's still a campus full of things that cost money: paper, computers, landscaping, building maintenance,
Hmm.
staffing. So who's paying for that if the students are there for free? Is this something me as a citizen coming, with part of my income tax with Massachusetts or my taxes?
Hmm.
Am I supporting free community college?
So, yep. So community college is supported by the state at the state level. And so we offer that as I mean, there's two programs, one for 25 and older called Mass Reconnect, and then Mass Educate, which is for 18 to 22. And that was done with the Millionaires Tax Initiative that passed a couple of years ago. And so that's how it's being funded through the Millionaires
Okay.
Tax. So, yes, but it doesn't, it's just tuition and it does include some stipends for books and things of that nature. But the reality is that there's, as we all know, there's so much more cost to going to college
Right.
in
Right.
terms of, again, housing and food and childcare and transportation that is not covered.
Mhm.
And those are the things that can inhibit someone from continuing their education. And so we have to continuously support our students with emergency funds and mental health and career counseling and food insecurity and then housing opportunities. So to make sure that we're supporting the whole student so that they're
Right.
able to continue there and focus on their educational goals.
And to your point earlier, by offering childcare, you're eliminating one of those expenses that
Exactly.
somebody may have faced previously and decided not to go to school. Now I can because
Exactly.
I can bring my kid to school with me.
Absolutely.
So, do a lot of the students from HCC go on to additional college time, like transition to a 4-year school, or not?
Yeah. So um, we have about a 700 graduates approximately a year, and about 50% of those go on to transfer to four-year institutions,
Okay.
which is a significant part of our graduating class. And then many also go into the workforce. And so our goal is to help students to do exactly those things, to get to their educational goals, either to go into the workforce or earn livable, sustainable wages, or help them transfer to the institution of their choice. And so that's what we do. The two biggest transfer institutions are Westfield State and UMass, as you would
Oh,
imagine.
okay.
But we send students to all of the colleges around in Western Mass and abroad. So Smith, Mount Holyoke, Elms, all of the schools that are around, we are in true
Benefit
partnership.
from, right?
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, this is about a partnership and supporting our students. And so I like to look at this that we are all partners and we are better together when we can come together and support the students.
And you made the comment early on that it's proven, this isn't you and I, that gaining knowledge through education makes you a more successful person. It leads to higher incomes, leads to greater job security, and it eliminates or reduces that cycle of poverty, cycle of debt that some families may have been in previously, but now that they have college that's affordable, they might be the first person in their family to go to college.
Yeah. So great point. So what do we know about education, right? At the end of the day, it is the most reliable pathway to economic mobility and success. And to your point, whether it's career advancement, career flexibility, but also the generational impact, right? My own personal story, my great-grandfather was a sharecropper in the tobacco fields in Connecticut, and now he has a great-grandson who's a college president.
Exactly.
I have a daughter who's an epidemiologist, like, and all of my kids are either in college at different stages. And I don't think that without me going to school, that would be the case.
Right, absolutely.
And so we're breaking generational curses and we're changing expectations. And so education continues to be, in my opinion, the best way to change your circumstance.
Do you hear a very similar story from the students about their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents of, just generational challenges that may have happened in the 1920s, 1930s that now these students have more opportunities than their ancestors had?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, 50% of my students are first generation students. 50% in
That's
today's age
amazing.
are still first generation students, right? And so it's important that we continue to educate and talk about the value of education. I know there's a lot of conversation about the value, but but the research is clear and it goes back decades that those with college degrees in education do better than those who don't have it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Our time has come to an end. Dr. Timmons, I can't thank you enough again for joining me talking about HCC. It's a great campus. Like I said, I spent a couple of years there myself. So it's a wonderful place. Folks, if you get a chance to go on the website, I think it's hcc.org.
No, hcc.edu.
.edu, that's right. I should have known that. hcc.edu and take a look at all the great things they have to offer. Dr. Timmons, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I welcome the opportunity.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.